Hank Pym created Ultron to be his vision for a better future, to be something that could help people on a daily basis as a hero, and not just help them, but also reform villains at the same time. Hank Pym so desperately wanted Ultron to be good, but unfortunately, because Hank is who he is, and because he trained Ultron off of his own brainwaves, he unfortunately created a monster. Someone who knows nothing but destruction and pain and wants to eliminate all of humanity in order to seek the perfect world that he believes he needs to create. But it gets lonely when you're the only destruction murder robot around, and so Ultron decided that he needed someone else to be there for him, in order to be his vision for the perfect world, a world full of hatred and destruction, free of humanity. So he set out to make a machine that could do just that. He created his vision of the future, one without people and one that was solely controlled by him. And in the process, he did just name it Vision, because that's all he was willing to give. He didn't want to give too much personally to his new creation. And we see that throughout Vision's character a lot. He is fairly quiet, and when he does speak, it is almost always highly analytical. He doesn't really seem to care much for being personable. All he cares about is completing his objective and doing what his master asks him of. He doesn't care very much for anything else. He's a simple-minded machine, a vision.
I am my master's vision of the future.
Vision, for all intents and purposes, is nothing more than a tool for Ultron to use, and in his first appearance he truly reflects that. He is extremely cold and monotone. He has nothing, no substance of character for himself, and I think that's a great launching point for Vision as a character. Vision's whole story, and what makes him such a unique and great character, is the fact that he is known to be breaking a cycle. Sins of his father and his father's father. That's his entire storyline. It's to break the cycle of pain and hatred that made him. It was Hank Pym's unfortunate and, at the time, unknowing hatred and mental instability that unfortunately created Ultron. And it is through Ultron's true and utter hatred of not only humanity, but of his own father and creator that gives us Vision. A third generation of not only pain and suffering, but hatred. Hatred for humanity and for those around him. Vision was born into it. He, unlike Ultron, never really experienced what it was to not hate humanity, not want to help them. Vision never experienced that. He was born into this hate and into this pain and was given nothing else. So it's of no real surprise that he is cold and emotionless, and he takes Ultron's words at face value every single time. He doesn't even think to argue with Ultron at all throughout a majority of his first appearance. He simply does as he's asked without question, because he believes in Ultron's vision wholeheartedly. His entire first episode is trying to create Ultron a brand new body, one made of both vibranium and adamantium, in order for him to be extraordinarily powerful. And we see that even though Vision is continuously outmatched throughout this episode, he doesn't really seem to care very much. He only wants to get his mission done so that he may please his master and his master's vision. Don't take a shot for every time I say Vision in this video. You will go to the hospital.
Objectives: obtain adamantium, complete. Obtain vibranium ore, complete. Opposition neutralized. Mission objectives obtained. Probability of success 99.999%.
But it isn't until really the next episode Vision has a major appearance that he starts to have any sort of character for himself, and as well as ideas of self-preservation. We see during one of the first episodes, T'Challa is trying to repair Captain America's shield. In the process, Vision tries to stick his hand in to retrieve it. He has no idea for himself of self-preservation, instead trying to tank the damage in order to get Captain America's shield. He is repetitively being destroyed and doesn't seem to have much of an issue with it if it means accomplishing his mission. He is single-minded. He doesn't know any difference. All of this because he fears failing Ultron. Failing Ultron is something that he finds inconceivable, and he has great fear of. And when he does have to go back to Ultron with his failures, it's almost like going back to a disapproving and abusing parent. Ultron really just doesn't seem to care for Vision's well-being at all. He doesn't care for him at all. Vision is nothing more than a tool for Ultron to use. Vision is being sold this idea of a perfect world by Ultron. The idea that if he does as though he is told, he will have a perfect vision of the world that he believes that he wants, that he's been taught to want. So what happens when that vision of everything he's being sold comes crashing down? That is essentially the entire plot of the very next episode that Vision makes an appearance in. I like that this show didn't just have them back to back because it gives the illusion that Ultron was preparing more stuff in the background. I think that's cool. It's the idea that the worldview that he has been sold throughout this entire time of his existence, his very short existence, is nothing but a fallacy and false. Ultron has been telling Vision that humanity is unpredictable, that their emotions get in the way of them doing anything properly, that those emotions lead to instability which causes war, death, and violence, and that they should be wiped out completely, starting with the Avengers, who are essentially the beacon for humanity, for the idea that those actions could cause improper reactions. But yet, that's not even true in the slightest. He is being told constantly that both him and Ultron do not have feelings, that they cannot feel things, and that there would be nothing wrong with them. But Vision starts to genuinely feel things. For example, he breaks his protocol in programming and hurts Wasp, something he is not supposed to do. He does this out of self-preservation. That is an emotion, something he was told that he couldn't feel at all, and that starts to genuinely shatter his entire worldview.
Error. I have deviated from my programming. What is happening to me?
This single moment starts to get Vision to question everything he thinks that he knows, not only about humanity, but about his own very short existence. He is highly confused by the action he took, and it doesn't help that Ultron's reaction is emotional and angry. It gets Vision to question everything that he is and was up to that point.
An error. But I do not understand. Why is the Wasp different?
It is not within your programming to question me. You are...
Vision starts to see Ultron for what he really is. Ultron, for all intents and purposes, is a person. He is essentially a part of Hank Pym, and therefore, Ultron would never be able to let go of someone like Janet. He wants to turn Janet into Jocasta, that being his robot wife. Yeah, dude is lonely and kind of weird. And Vision starts to see all of this. A man who has shaped his worldview from the very beginning, all around not being human, around giving up all sorts of control to machines, to non-feeling machines. And he doesn't see any of that making sense. And it's in his fight with Captain America that Vision starts to truly sense that something is wrong. And I personally, despite how amazing Captain America's speech is, don't believe it was actually Captain America's speech about humanity and about overcoming the others' wills that is what exactly turned Vision personally. I actually believe it's what Ultron had said next that made Vision realize just how flawed Ultron's worldview is. Captain America uses his emotions and his feelings to fight for something that he doesn't even know that he can win with. He fights a battle he doesn't know he can win because he loves the people around him. Ultron views this as a weakness and as a reason humanity is so self-destructive and dangerous. Yet at the exact same juncture, he does the same things, refusing to kill the Avengers and refusing to even harm Janet. He is just like them, and Vision sees this, and it perplexes him.
Fight against logic. Emotions make you imperfect, and therefore will be eliminated. Now.
It was in this moment that Vision realized his entire life had been a lie. Ultron had been selling him on a logical fallacy that Vision gave into and believed for so long, yet none of it was true. Ultron didn't even live by the doctrine in which he believed. Vision had spent so much time in his life essentially being brainwashed into believing something that wasn't real. So when Vision finally saw his chance to break free, he chose to take it. Vision finally chose to break the cycle of pain and of hatred and of just genuine terror. For once, it was finally a way for him to free not only himself, but to free others from this horrific cycle that had not only claimed Hank Pym, but had created a monster so dangerous the Avengers can barely defeat him on 2 separate occasions. The story of Ultron is one that we can truly equate to our everyday life, especially in his very first and really only arc throughout this show. He spends a lot of his time believing one simple thing because his worldview is so narrow and small. It takes meeting other people to see through the logical fallacies of his own worldview in order to experience how others feel and to build a life outside of the worldview he was sold. And through fire and ashes, in a very symbolic way, Vision is reborn through flame and fire, arising once again as a phoenix, a new reborn Spectre, free from Ultron and free from the doctrine of his previous life. I feel as though it's something we all come to terms with as we get older throughout our years. Our once small and narrow worldview hopefully expands with the more people that we meet and encounter on a daily basis. And I thought it was a wonderful arc to give a character like Vision.
Ultron created me to be perfect. He thought that meant less human, to be cold and unfeeling. I wish to be perfect, but I believe that means to be more human.
It's honestly such a beautiful arc, and it really only takes place over the course of 2 episodes. It is proof that this show, when it wants to, can create an arc for a character in a short span of time and yet still make it feel emotionally impactful and still make it feel enjoyable to watch. I love the idea of sins of the father, and in this case sins of the father's father, of breaking the cycle of hatred. I think it is a very beautiful arc for a character like Vision, and I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with just how real it felt for me watching this, because it's something that I see a lot, especially in my personal life. It is a growth in character that is very, very clearly based in reality. They use Ultron and they use Hank Pym as unilateral evil. That way it's very easy for us to relate to for this show, very easy to break down for a kid's show. But in real life, it's often not as clear cut. It's slightly muddier, and breaking this cycle might mean doing things that go against the people that have been there for you for a majority of your life, even if those people aren't good for you. Ultron was never good for Vision, because Ultron never saw him as anything more than a tool to continue to spread hate. And unfortunately, that is how a lot of people in our own world personally will treat their children, as nothing more than tools for them to use, whether in spreading hate or just in everyday life. And I think that this show, going out of its way to have an arc like this, even if it was small, was important to me, and as a matter of fact was one of my favorite arcs. It was honestly an accident that I covered Hank Pym and Ultron before covering Vision. I didn't intentionally plan that out, but now looking back on it, I'm glad I did. You can see how the line started, how the hatred started, and you can see where the line breaks, where change is instituted in the character. I think this show oftentimes tries to leave messages with its viewers and tries to encourage everybody to be better, to break cycles of hatred like this and to build something new and better. It's just another reason why I appreciate this show so much and why I appreciated Vision's arc throughout this show, even if it was minor. Now, you might be wondering, especially if you look at the runtime of this video. Well, if that was Vision's main arc, what's left to talk about? And I think it's his one last episode that Vision has any sort of real semblance over, in which he is the main focus of the episode, and that only comes a few episodes off of his previous arc. It almost feels as though it is an epilogue for him, in which he is learning to be more human and more personable. It's an episode which is oddly enough the inverse of the previous one we just covered, where the Avengers were trying to essentially defeat Ultron and Captain America spent a decent amount of time trying to convert Vision. Vision will spend a majority of this upcoming episode doing nothing more than trying to get the Avengers to remember whom they are and why they chose to fight for what they do. All because of everyone's favorite word I can't say on this website, ist, Purple Man, who has not only taken full control of the Avengers, but of Tony Stark specifically. And it's through probably one of the Avengers' darkest hours that Vision is no longer a vision for hatred, but a vision for life and prosperity, and a beacon of hope for humanity. If it wasn't for Vision, the Avengers would have been completely lost. And it's all because he was given a second chance at life and was reborn as something more than he once was. But first, dude needed to be rebuilt in a physical sense. While he might have rebuilt himself emotionally and logically, he was still completely broken from separating from Ultron. He was still facing a ton of wounds that he had previously achieved, and it was going to take a full month of him being offline to be properly put back together. But the world Vision comes back to when that month is over is completely different. The Avengers are missing and not in the Avengers mansion. Vision finds out that the entirety of New York is being single-handedly and solely run by Tony Stark in a unilateral type of government. Essentially, Tony has taken full control of New York and is treating it as his own personal playpen, one in which he controls fully. Something that Vision finds extraordinarily confusing due to the fact that everything he knows about Tony Stark speaks to the opposite of this. Everything he knows about the Avengers would not allow for them to be taking control of an entire city for no reason. It is through this that Vision figures out that Tony is being controlled, and as well, so is the rest of the Avengers. And the first of the Avengers that Vision encounters, oddly enough, would be Captain America. And when Vision does encounter him, Captain America is fully under Purple Man's control. Somebody who is basically not allowed to be themselves anymore. And to Vision, this is an immediate red flag, as he tries his hardest to break Captain America out of the mental conditioning that he is currently seeing. Vision himself, though, can't do it. He is not exactly to a point yet where he can properly no longer be able to essentially convince somebody that they are human. This entire episode is about Vision learning to be more human, and in order for him to do that, he has to go essentially trial by fire. And so, in his fight with Captain America, Vision doesn't convince him himself, but rather, very smartly, uses Captain America's own footage of his own speech that he used on Vision in the previous episode. Vision is highly intelligent. I think we all kind of know that. So he knew he wasn't going to be able to just convince Captain America off rip, and instead had to do something genuinely drastic in order to get Cap to realize. But I also think it's highly important that Captain America is the first character Vision is able to convert back to a sense of normalcy. The two characters are sort of connected in a way, especially considering Cap is the man who put his life on the line to ensure Vision made it out of the previous episode alive. The two characters share a special bond, and so I actually quite enjoyed watching this episode where the two were their own focuses. Didn't spend a whole lot of time personally speaking on this episode in Captain America's video, but figured I would save it for Vision's instead, because I believe that this is a bigger moment for Vision as a character. And this entire episode in its totality is shown to do nothing more than try and humanize Vision. We start to see throughout the episode that he seems to gain more and more of a personality as the runtime extends. Vision starts to actually be more of a person rather than just a simple one-minded machine. He sort of starts to take on the personalities of the people he is around, and I think that's a great sort of character development for him going forward. Him and Captain America resolute to save the rest of the Avengers from the Purple Man's influence. And we see not only is Vision successful in converting Captain America, but he is also successful later in the episode in converting Carol Danvers from being under the Purple Man's control. He is the catalyst for hope and for change within not only the Avengers, but also just within the world itself. We see that he is that beacon and that vision for a better world, and we also see that he doesn't necessarily try and fight his compatriots at all. He is very gentle when handling them, only fighting back when he absolutely needs to. He would much rather play defensively, and that's something we'll see throughout a majority of the rest of this season, is that Vision isn't very much of an offensive fighter. He seems to take far more of a passive route, almost reminding me of how Hank would fight as Ant-Man throughout a majority of the beginning of this show. And again, it was also just nice seeing Vision get to be more of a character himself and starting to actually be something more. He actually had quite a few funny lines in this episode, those of which I particularly enjoy.
That was of minimal difficulty.
Did you just say this was easy? You never say it was easy. Ever!
Why?
Vision actually continues to take on a little bit of the comic relief character throughout the rest of this show, simply because he isn't 100% up to, normal customs of being a human, and it's funny to see him sort of learn new ones as the episodes go by. I find it genuinely hilarious. Now, after this episode, Vision does become a mainstay on the team. Even though he typically doesn't get a whole lot to do in future episodes, he is always given a decent bit of things to do on a regular basis in episodes, even though they're almost never unilaterally focused on him post this episode. Which I kind of felt like was a shame, but also understandable. This show only had 26 episodes for its second season. Not only did the show introduce both Carol Danvers as a full-fledged character, but Vision as well, those being two brand new Avengers, but they also expanded the villains roster as well. This entire show had just grown larger and larger, and so I was even surprised myself that Vision got his own real character arc that felt tangible, which was extremely nice, but unfortunately came at the detriment of other characters. But that doesn't mean that I like Vision any less, nor do I think his presence is any more heartfelt and just amazing. I enjoyed the rest of the presence he had on the rest of the season. His appearances weren't super long, but they were short and sweet. Throughout both the finale and the last 6 or 7 episodes that he was available to be in, he always left a mark that I found enjoyable. Full disclosure, I am probably biased when I say this is my favorite and, in my opinion, the most perfect adaptation of Vision to exist, simply because this was my true first experience with the character. It was really between this show and the movie Heroes of Tomorrow that I was introduced to the character of Vision. I found the concept of him to be very entertaining, and I always loved his powers, but I never really understood him as a character until I got older. The Vision that they put out in Earth's Mightiest Heroes was genuinely so enjoyable, and I really, really wish we could have gotten just a little bit more out of the character, especially if we had just gotten a third season of the show. I feel like they were really priming us for a new set of Avengers when it came to a potential third season. I felt like a lot of the original Avengers we had seen from season 1 had started to retire themselves character-wise. We had seen a lot of their stories come to fruition and sort of closing in on full circle, and we could have seen a whole new roster of Avengers with new characters. Vision would have been an amazing headliner for an entirely new group of Avengers. Yes, I do and am aware about the new Avengers episode. That needs its own coverage in its own separate video. But I think a third season would have truly benefited from retiring some of the older characters and letting these new ones like Carol Danvers and Vision, they even have their own Wolverine, letting each and every one of these characters grow unilaterally and be a part of a new set of Avengers. I truly love this show, and I truly do wish sometimes that it went on longer, because I felt like they could have done a lot more with Vision, even though what I think we got from the character was amazing. And I honestly wish a character like Black Panther would have gotten this treatment, where he would have genuinely had a character arc and wasn't completely stagnant and unilateral the entire time through. But I think that's enough of me glazing this version of Vision in this show. I mean, this video already is almost 26 minutes long. We're closing in on half an hour, and I was really trying to keep it under half an hour. Regardless, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for watching. You guys are amazing, and you keep helping me create content like this for everyone to continue to watch in future. So truly, thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank everybody once again for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. If you'd like to leave a like, please leave a like. It helps out the channel a lot. If you want to leave a dislike, please dislike, and then tell me down in the comments below why you didn't like the video. Constructive criticism is the best way for me as a creator to create better videos for all of you on this platform. If you want to subscribe, it's free and you can always unsub later. As well, I do have a Patreon in which you can just support me as a creator, and you'll get a few perks such as seeing my videos early and completely unedited, along with being able to have access to my Discord in which you can converse with me on a more personal level. And as well, I do host weekly watch-alongs where you can watch movies with me and we can just interact as a whole community. And I usually host those at least once a week. All of that comes with just being a $1 a month patron. And as well, I do offer a $5 and above tier in which you will be shouted out at the end of each and every one of my videos, just like these lovely people right here. So give me 1 second to shout out East Sibert 13, shout out Gabriel Lafonte, Transgers1, Video Gamer 75, Golden Boy 420, Dakota Rawson, Donovan Gomez, MC Bomb 27. You all are amazing, and I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day.